The air inside my childhood home still smelled like cinnamon and pine, just like it did every December, but the warmth ended there. I had not even taken off my boots before the quiet commentary began. Aunt Candace's eyes trailing over my plain duffel bag, my cousin Jasper smirking, as if I brought failure with me like luggage. "You're used to discomfort, right?" Dad joked, gesturing toward the basement, like it was some kind of gift. They took the upstairs rooms, polished and perfect. I got the cold, cluttered storage space downstairs with an old futon and a space heater humming like an apology. No one asked about my flight, my work, or the 5 years I had served overseas. No one asked how it felt to lose my best friend, Sergeant Mikey Gow, in a sandstorm ambush we never saw coming. But they sure asked if I could help carry the boxes of decorations from the garage. I nodded, said nothing. That was easier. That was what they wanted. My mother hugged me too long, whispering that she missed me. My father offered a half smile and said, "Good to see you, kid," like I was just another guest. Maybe I was. At dinner, they spoke over me about Jasper's promotion, Bryn's engagement, and the upcoming visit from CEO Callum Reichner. Dad was buzzing about it like it was a royal event. I cut my meat quietly. No one even noticed I had arrived late because of a debriefing with military intelligence, because none of them knew I was now a colonel. They never asked. They never wanted to know. I used to think the silence meant they did not care. Now I realize it meant they already made up their minds. To them, I was the cautionary tale, the one who settled, the one who didn't make it. I could have corrected them, but sometimes silence is not surrender, it is preparation. And my silence was starting to sharpen like a blade. Dinner that night felt like an ambush in slow motion. The table was dressed in sparkling flatware and matching napkins, but the conversation cut deeper than any knife. Aunt Candace led the charge, of course. "Hunter," she said sweetly, "still single, huh? Well, I suppose that lifestyle doesn't leave much time for anything serious." Her smile was too tight, like she already pitied me. Jasper chimed in from the other end of the table, twirling his wine like a villain from a sitcom. "He's married to the government auntie. Public service, or as I like to call it, glorified taxpayer-funded adventure time." Laughter followed. Not the kind you join, the kind you endure. No one mentioned the hours I had spent on black site missions or the lives saved because of the strategies I authored. No one knew that I led a unit classified beyond their wildest understanding. They just saw a soldier, not the mind behind national defense protocols they could never pronounce. That was the price of humility. In a loud family, they mistake your quiet for emptiness. The only light came from Sloane, my 15-year-old cousin, who slipped me a glance across the table. There was something different in her eyes. Curiosity. Maybe even respect. Later that night, she found me in the kitchen while I rinsed the dishes no one thanked me for. "Is it true you were overseas last year?" she asked. I nodded. "Did you see things, real things?" I nodded again, slower this time. "Were you scared?" she whispered. "Every day," I said. And for the first time that trip, someone saw me. If you have ever felt dismissed or underestimated by your own family, drop a yes in the comments and subscribe for more stories that speak truth into silence. You are not alone. The house buzzed in anticipation of Callum Reichner's arrival, everyone rehearsing pleasantries and polishing Jasper's resume into a speech. My father asked me to help set up chairs. "You can be useful," he said, as if I was a spare part. But what they did not know was this: the man they saw as an afterthought was about to be the only one Reichner would recognize. Not for being polite, but for what I had done when no one was watching. That night, I sat alone in the basement, the hum of the old heater masking the thud of my pulse. Upstairs, they were still laughing about what I did not care. The air smelled like pot roast, an approval I would never earn. I stared at the framed photo on the nightstand. It was old from basic training, back before rank meant anything, back when Mikey Gow was still alive. He once told me being invisible just means they'll never see it coming. I smiled then. I did not now. The next morning, while everyone scrambled to clean for Callum Reichner's arrival, fluffing pillows, fixing Jasper's tie, I found a moment alone with Sloane. She was sitting cross-legged in the den, flipping through one of my old medals I had brought for her to see. "They don't get it," she said. "They're so busy being proud of the loud ones, they don't notice the ones holding it all together." For a teenager, she saw more than the adults ever could. I wanted to believe that maybe I had misjudged my family, that their dismissal came from ignorance, not cruelty. But then I heard it. My father on the phone with Reichner's assistant, Hunter's here. Yes, but I would not worry. He's not really involved in anything important. My throat tightened. I stepped back from the hallway, swallowed the heat rising in my chest. I was not angry. I was done. When Reichner's sleek car pulled into the driveway that afternoon, everyone lined up like they were meeting royalty. My mother adjusted Jasper's lapel. My father looked over at me, then quickly looked away. "Hunter, do not hover," he muttered. I stepped back as instructed. I always followed orders, but this time it was not out of obedience. It was strategy, because they still thought the worst thing I could bring into that house was awkward silence. What they never anticipated was what would happen when the most powerful man in the room saw through the noise and locked eyes with me. The front door opened, and suddenly every sound in the house sharpened. Jasper stood near the fireplace, subtly flexing like he was posing for a magazine cover. Aunt Candace adjusted the hors d'oeuvres like they were being judged for presentation. My father's voice dropped an octave as he rehearsed his welcome. But when Callum Reichner stepped inside, the first thing he noticed was not the handcrafted charcuterie board or Jasper's firm handshake, it was me. I had stayed back in the foyer, exactly where they told me to stand out of the way. Callum paused mid-stride. His eyes scanned my face like he was verifying a memory. Then he stopped, squared his shoulders, and with a crispness that silenced the entire room, he raised his hand in a formal salute. "Colonel Hunter Whitaker." His voice was steady. "It is an honor to meet you in person, sir." The silence cracked like glass. My mother gasped. Sloane blinked hard. Jasper's smirk disintegrated. My father. His jaw clenched like it might break. Sir Jasper echoed confused. Callum stepped closer, dropping his salute only when I returned it out of instinct and respect. "I read your strategic defense report last quarter. Saved us a lot of trouble in the Baltic. You were the classified name behind it." I should have guessed. I could feel every pair of eyes burning into my back. The room had tilted, and none of them knew how to stand anymore. Jasper looked like a man watching his throne disappear. Aunt Candace's champagne flute trembled. My father opened his mouth, but no sound came out. "I hope your family is proud," Callum added casually. "Men like you don't come around often." That sentence landed heavier than any bullet I had dodged in the field, because for the first time someone spoke it aloud, what I had been silently screaming for years. I looked at my father, then not with anger, but with truth, and I let him feel the weight of everything he refused to see. The silence after Reichner's salute was deafening. My father stood, frozen eyes darting between me and the CEO, like someone realizing he had just misread the most important line of his life. Jasper, ever the performer, tried to laugh it off. "Well, I guess our Hunter's been keeping secrets." But the crack in his voice betrayed the panic leaking through. Aunt Candace moved toward me with a strained smile, as if proximity might somehow rewrite history. "Why didn't you tell us, dear?" she asked. The answer came without thinking. "Because you never asked." I could have stopped there, let the moment sit, but something in me refused to let it all pass under awkward glances and shallow apologies. I turned to face them, not with rage, not even resentment, but the kind of clarity that only comes when a person's worth is finally undeniable. I did not hide who I was. You just decided who I was not. My father looked away, jaw tight. "It's not that we didn't care, Hunter. You were just always distant." "No," I said firmly. "I was quiet. There's a difference. You filled the silence with your own story about me. One where I failed, one where I was less. And it made you feel better." Jasper's expression cracked like porcelain. "You think you're better than us now?" "No," I said. "I always was. Not because of rank or title, but because I never needed to belittle anyone to feel like somebody. Sloane, standing in the doorway, spoke up softly. "You're the only one I've ever been proud of." Her words sliced through the tension like a beacon. My mother began to cry. Not loud, performative tears, just quiet, stunned sorrow. Maybe grief for the years wasted the sun unseen. I turned back to Reichner, ready to move on. But not before offering my family one final truth. "I came home hoping you had changed." Turns out I did. The house felt different after that moment. Not louder, not quieter, but heavier. Like everyone inside had suddenly become aware of the air between them. That evening, while Reichner discussed future roles and leadership training over coffee, my father sat stiffly in the corner chair, the same spot he always occupied, like a throne of quiet judgment. Except now he looked smaller, like a man who had finally been forced to see the full weight of his ignorance. I passed through the hallway, on my way to the kitchen, and saw my old framed photo, the one from basic training, now placed on the living room mantel beside Jasper's MBA diploma. It sat slightly crooked, like someone had put it there with trembling hands. A small gesture, but it landed like an earthquake. The next day, Sloane asked if she could attend the veterans event with me, the one where I was scheduled to speak. "I want to hear your story," she said. And she did. She sat in the front row beside my mother, who still hadn't said much since the confrontation, but whose silence now held weight instead of disregard. Her eyes followed every word, her hands clenched in her lap. When I stepped up to the podium, I did not read from the speech I had written. Instead, I spoke from the hollow spaces, the nights alone overseas, the weight of command, the ache of being forgotten by the very people you fight to protect. I did not name names. I did not point fingers. But when I spoke about being underestimated by those closest to you, my mother's eyes filled with tears. And when I spoke about the strength of quiet leadership, Sloane began to clap before I even finished the sentence. The applause was deafening, but it was not for revenge. It was recognition. And maybe just maybe the beginning of repair. As I stepped off the stage, my father was waiting near the side steps. He did not speak. He only reached out and placed a hand on my shoulder. Eyes wet, jaw tight. He had no words. For once, that was enough. Healing, I have learned, is not always loud. It does not come with grand apologies or sweeping gestures. Sometimes it comes quietly in the shift of an old man's eyes as he finally sees his son not as a disappointment, but as a man forged in silence. In the way my mother started setting an extra place at the table even after I left. In the way Sloane now texts me after her debate club meets asking for advice, not because I'm military, but because I listen. My story did not end with applause or forgiveness carved in stone. Some wounds do not heal cleanly. Jasper never reached out. Aunt Candace returned to her biting remarks like nothing happened. And maybe that is okay, because growth is not about changing everyone. Sometimes it is about becoming so steady in who you are that no one else can shake it. I still think about Mikey Gao, about the battles we fought that no one at home will ever understand. And I think about how much power there is in being underestimated. How sometimes invisibility is the perfect cover for becoming something unstoppable. If you have ever been the forgotten one, the quiet one, the one written off too early, remember this: you are not less. You are just preparing. Some storms are slow to form, but when they come, they change everything. If this story struck a chord with you, comment "I see you" below, and subscribe for more true stories that give voice to the quiet strength in all of us. Because in a world that often shouts over the silent, sometimes the most powerful answer is simply being seen. Neofreu.